I think the most amazing travel story I have is that when I was like 22, 23, I had just finished college and then a year of grad school getting my teaching credential. And my mother and my brother, who was 15, went to Italy and we lived in Florence for
Mm.
a year. And we didn't have a place to live. We just arrived with our suitcases.
Oh,
I mean, this was 1985. We arrived in, I think, probably August, and we didn't realize that all the Italians are gone. So we decided one night, we woke up in the middle of the night because the mosquitoes were like bombarding us. We decided we got to get out of town. So the next day we went and booked a cruise to Greece
oh.
just to get out for a week. And that cruise changed our lives, like changed everything.
Susie, welcome to the Taste Toast Travel Podcast. I am so excited to dig into all the things with you today. We have a lot to, I was going to say unpack, which is a really bad pun for this podcast and traveling. A lot to
Okay,
unpack.
good point.
But for anyone here listening who doesn't know, you and I have had the pleasure of getting to know each other through both of our grief work. For those of you who are newer to this podcast, I do have another podcast as well, and I do a lot of work in the grief and loss space. And we have just developed this beautiful friendship. And you were on that podcast. And what I love about that and that community is there is certainly a lot of grief talk and all the things, but there's also a lot of digging into like what else are we all interested in too, and exploring other things. And we are all so much more than our grief and the things that we have lost, and there's a whole world out there to travel and explore, and you have done a lot of that. And so once we got talking, I was like, we need to dig into this for sure, because you got some juicy stories and some amazing life experiences too. So just thank you for being here. I'm very excited, and I will kick it off to you here in a second to dig into all of that. But just first, a big welcome to you. I'm excited to have you.
Thanks, Tara. I'm really excited. I love travel and I love
Mhm.
talking about it. So, yeah.
What more do you need in life? I know. I love it. So, as I said, I would love to kick it off to you. Just tell us a little bit about just general high level, like who you are, what do you do, what do you like to do, hobbies, all the things. And then I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your history, if you will, with not only just your travel experiences, but you have some really amazing living abroad experience as well. So,
Let's see. I am a grief and creativity coach and artist, and I live in Northern California, northern up in Chico. That's my passion is helping people access their emotional world through the creative process. And then I also am passionate about making my own art.
mhm.
And I'm in my 60s, my early 60s, and recently remarried. I came out of the closet late in life and found love up in Chico and moved up here. And my wife is retired. So suddenly, actually, I'm doing a lot more travel in my life, but have a long history of it from all different chapters of
Yeah.
my previous life. So
Yeah.
lots to tell.
I love that. I love that there's sort of that, I guess, a little bit of a before and after, if you will, but it's such a beautiful testament to, I don't know, just how life continues evolving. And what I love so much about you and your experiences is it has been such a pivotal part for you and such a pivotal like aspect of your life from a pretty young age. And I know just in a little bit from speaking with you, but this is what I want to definitely get into today is like how that has impacted you, how impacted your viewpoint on the world, just your life experiences, or every experience with traveling essentially adds a little something, little spice to our life for sure. And I know you have some stories there, but yeah, maybe just start there, kind of wherever you feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the most amazing travel story I have is that when I was like 22, 23, I had just finished college and then a year of grad school getting my teaching credential. And my mother and myself and my one of my siblings, my brother who's 15, went to Italy and we lived in Florence for
Mm.
a year. And the reason we did that was that both my mom and I had studied Italian. She'd actually gone back to school to get a landscape architecture degree,
How
and
fun.
while she did that, she, studied Italian, and she wanted to do a year abroad in Italy, but they at her school, you had to do your senior year back at the school. So you couldn't go for like your senior year. And she had my brother. She didn't want to move him back and forth because she wasn't planning on
Yeah.
where her college was. Anyway,
Yeah.
mm, and I had studied Italian too while I was studying art at UCLA. And so we decided, let's just go spend a year in Italy and do our own year abroad,
Ugh,
basically.
incredible.
And so we didn't really know much about like anything, but we decided to live in Florence and we didn't have a place to live. We just arrived with our suitcases.
Oh my god. Nowadays, that's like such a beautiful time when that was, because like, I don't know, I feel like you I'm pretty sure my parents honeymooned that way too, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, I can't ask them now. But I think they said it like pensions, like things like that, and I was like, "Oh, such of the time." But I love
Yeah,
that. It was just so flying by the seat of your pants kind of.
yeah. It was definitely different. I mean, this was 1985, okay, so a long time ago. But we arrived in, I think, probably August, and we didn't realize that all the Italians are
They're
gone.
on vacation, yep.
And so the only Italians left in Florence were the really grumpy ones
Oh my god,
who
that's
didn't get to
so
take didn't get to take.
funny.
And very quickly we realized it was a horrible time. Like you couldn't find a place to live. We were talking to realtors, like no one was around, basically.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So we decided one night we woke up in the middle of the night because the mosquitoes were like bombarding us. The
Ugh,
mosquitoes so bad in Florence in the summer.
yeah.
And we decided we got to get out of town. So we the next day we went and booked a cruise to Greece
Oh,
just to get out for a week. And that cruise changed our lives, like changed everything.
oh my god.
So, and what I want to say is that, we had studied Italian, but we didn't speak Italian yet.
Mhm.
And it just was an adventure. Like my mom was, I don't know how old she was. I was 22. She was probably almost 50. Mother was 15. And it was like, we just decided, let's just do this amazing thing. Like, let's just have fun and go do this thing. And so and like I said, we had no idea, and there was no internet, it wasn't like we had a phone, everything was a paper map, and you had
Yeah.
to we had our Italian dictionary, our Italian English dictionaries. We go on this cruise to Greece for a week, like, I think it must have started a few days later or something, and the first night, we're seated at a table. We go into how on a cruise, like well, at that time, you got seated at a table with particular people, and that was,
Okay.
like, who you had to eat with every night. That was the cruise, right?
God.
Like the kinda cruise I've been on recently. Anyway, and that was what we expected, like, they seat you at a table, and those are the people you eat with at every meal.
Wow.
And we go into the dining room, they seat the 3 of us at a table for 3, all by ourselves. And we were so sad, like, "How is this possible? This is so
Yeah.
sad." And then suddenly the waiter comes up and he says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I put you at the wrong table." He moves us to a big table, and we're seated at this table, and in walk 3 young Italian men who are seated at our table with us. And I was like,
Love
"That
that for you.
week just got a lot better." And long story short, I fell in love with one of them, and it was very mutual, and we
Oh my
had
god.
this romance that started on this cruise, but they were all, like, 28. They loved all 3 of us. My mother and I spent the entire week with these guys. They were so much fun. They were, like, best friends from childhood,
Oh,
Romans. They
I
lived
was
out
gonna ask that, where they were from. Okay.
and the whole cruise too was Italians and Germans, and there were like 5, I don't know, 5 or 6 Americans or English speakers on the cruise, that was it.
Wow, not a lot. Oh my god, it's like the
So
opposite nowadays, if anything, god.
yeah, and so all the tours, wherever we stopped were in either Italian or German.
God.
And my brother spoke no Italian, and my mom and I, it was touch and go there, but, we went along on all the Italian, uh, trips with these guys, and our by the end of our week, our Italian English dictionary was in tatters. I'm not exaggerating. We'd used it to death, having conversations every all day long with these guys. It was so much.
Um,
And my brother, from the beginning, I mean, he didn't speak a word of Italian, but he found the teenagers, or they found him, and they called him California because that's where he's from. And by the end of the cruise, he was totally, like, just, I don't know, somehow communicating with everybody.
oh my god, that's impressive.
Well, just I mean, I what we found out was he had a real gift. He wasn't speaking Italian yet, but he
Yeah, no,
could
fluently, but
make work.
wow.
And when we got back from this trip, like, we had friends,
Mhm.
we'd had incredible experience of Greece, which was amazing,
Incredible.
and it sort of launched us into this year, and I had a boyfriend suddenly who lived in Florence, he lived outside of Rome. I started making trips, back and forth, but it was definitely a silver lining after, this terrible start to our trip, and we
Okay.
to Florence, and we found this incredible, uh, house on the outside. It was like a duplex, basically. An artist who's English had split his house into 2 apartments, and he lived in one side and we lived in the other, outside the Porta Romana, which is on one edge of Florence, and we just had this absolutely incredible
Oh,
time,
what a
and
dream.
it changed all of us. Like, my brother, who spoke no Italian and was 15, which theoretically is past the window of opportunity for learning a new language.
Like, really absorbing it quickly and, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
you
they
would
usually
think.
say kids need to start, you need to start
Totally.
young. Well, by the end of our so he went to the International School of Florence,
Oh,
um, and, we lived in Florence, so we found that school for him. That was the
mhm.
one thing we'd figured out before we got there.
It's like, at least he's got an education.
To keep to go to school was sort of my mother's attitude, and of course, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That his being part of that school opened up a whole other community because his friends and their parents became our community,
Mhm.
and it was, like professors and other, students who had come and done the year with their kids there, and we all of us have lifelong friends from that
Oh,
trip. Like, we still are connected to all of us.
how special.
And my brother, by the end of that year, spoke impeccable Italian
Wow.
and realized he had a gift for it. Like, I don't think when he was 15, I don't think he said, I have a gift for it. It was just
Something you kind of realize later.
so easy.
Mhm.
And uh, he ended up when we came back to the States, he ended up back in high school, sort of hanging out with all the foreign exchange students because it had really sort of blown open his view of the world
Wow.
in a way that most of his American classmates just
Mhm.
didn't have. Like, it's different to travel versus, like, living in another country.
100%. Yeah.
And so he hung out with the foreign students, and then when he went to college, he studied French was his major, and he studied other languages, and every single summer, he did a work abroad program in another country.
Oh,
And when he
mm.
graduated, he he had a girlfriend who was Brazilian, and he moved to Brazil and taught English, and today, a long time later, right? 40 years later or so, he speaks 8 languages, and he lives abroad, like, he's an expat.
Oh my god. Do you think he would have gotten into any of this had you guys not
Oh,
done it, right? I feel like that happens to a lot of us, right? Like there's that happens in a lot of life, right? You don't know what you don't know until you're kind of thrown into something. You never know how it could transform or change you. But like what a gift that your mom doing this like gave to both of you. And I want to also hear from your perspective, like how
yeah,
it changed you and all the things. But like this literally altered the course of his life. Like,
it it was
wow.
yeah, and he's a very intrepid traveler. He
Yeah.
goes all over the place. He stays in hostels or cheap Airbnbs or whatever. He lives in Peru now. He lived in Brazil for 8 years. He lived in South Korea. I mean, he taught himself Korean and moved to South Korea, and he's worked as a translator for most of his adult life, either an
Oh,
English teacher or a translator, and
wow.
now lives in Peru. He loves Peru.
I
So,
okay, it's crazy you're bringing up Peru. I swear to God, 90% of the guests that I have had on and spoken to so far have either traveled to Peru, lived in Peru. There's something about Peru, and my aunt is actually Peru that has married into my
no,
family. And I'm like, "Is there something about Peru that I need to go?" Like, I think I need to go. This is my
I
sign. I'm taking it as a sign. I hear it's have you been? Have you been able to visit? Yeah, is that maybe on your list though?
yeah,
If
yeah,
you can get down
definitely,
there. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so your brother's life has been changed forever.
Right,
Amazing.
totally.
How talk to me about your year there. What did that look like for you? And then you had to come home after all of that?
Yeah.
Like, how I
Oof,
dare I ask how that was? That sounds
so
aw
hard.
anytime I
So
have to come home from Florence, I'm like, "Please,
I
I
know.
wanna go anywhere else."
My gosh, and Florence, I have to say, Florence 40 years ago is nothing like what it is now. I mean, it was
No, it's
just nothing.
I'm not gonna say it's awful. No, I would never call Florence awful. It's, like, basically my favorite city in the entire world. The tourism. I
Yeah,
mean, sure, it's always been there. It's always been, like, quote, "bad." It's at another level now, and
yeah.
I have a good friend who is also my roommate that's, like, still lives there, and she's been around Italy, she does speak fluent Italian too. She's like, "I cannot live anywhere near the city center." She lives on the other side of the Arno. She's like, "I've never seen it like this."
Yeah,
It's yeah, so what a golden time to kind of,
it was.
go there and be there and
Yeah. I
yeah.
think it I think it really, really was. We were really lucky to be there when we were there. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm gonna go back to the cruise, though. One of the
Yeah.
things that happened on the cruise was we met this woman who was a professor. She was American, but a professor at a university in Rome, and we got to be friends with her because there were so few Americans, and
Yeah.
we wanted to speak a little English. Anyway, we, bonded. And I remember, I mean, she was probably my mom's age in her late 40s or something, but I'm this impressionable young 20-year-old. And I remember that she told us that she had come to Italy 20 years before, or 25 years, whatever, with a group of girlfriends from college. They did like a semester or a year abroad or whatever in
Mhm.
Italy, and they'd all fallen in love with Italians, and they'd all married them, all 7 of them.
What?
And she said,
The
and this was
odds.
20 years later, or whatever, only 1 was still married.
Oh, no.
Like, it was like a cautionary tale to me.
Yeah.
She didn't say it like that to me, like giving me advice I didn't ask for. She just was telling us her story.
Yeah, she's like, "Do with this information what you will." I'm just
Yeah, but believe me, I've never forgotten it, and I definitely didn't forget it that year that Francesca told us that this happened, and she said that the only couple that had stayed together was a couple who could afford to have a home in Italy and a home in the States, and they could go back and forth. So they had a
Interesting.
level of wealth that was not that common. But everyone else, their marriages fell apart, and it was
Mhm.
basically like it was very hard to have a relationship that was successful with an Italian man.
Okay, interesting.
And so I just kept that, like, stayed in my head the whole year as I was falling deeper and deeper in love with this wonderful man. And so, my and then now, our year, what my mom and I did, we took classes, like we took art classes up in the atelier of some apartment that this
Oh,
English artist, he did live model drawing classes, and so we did that. We took cooking classes and we took all sorts of day trips, and I mean explored every single inch of Florence. We traveled all over Italy. We went to France a couple times, and Germany and Switzerland. Over the holidays, like the winter holidays, we went to Israel. And the funny part when we were in Israel, I mean, we're Jewish, and that was like the point of going. But I swear, I'm not kidding. We would follow Italian tour groups around, like, just for the Italian. Like, we
yeah.
missed Italy so much
Oh
when
my
we
god.
so that was what we did. But
So cute.
it was it was just incredible. Like, we lived in it wasn't the suburbs, it was still very much an old-fashioned or an old feeling neighborhood. I
Yeah.
mean, we had friends who, like, would go to supermarkets and things like that to get their food, but we had all these little tiny shops
Mhm.
right where our house was, and that's where we would shop. Every single day, we would go to the shops, and we
Yeah.
got to know the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick
Oh,
maker,
I love that.
and they loved us. They, like, were a little bit like, "Who are these people?" at
Right.
first. But and we knew nothing, like, going to an Italian butcher, the way they cut their meat is totally different,
Yeah.
and so we didn't recognize the cuts of meat, and so
No.
we would have to, like, ask the butcher to sort of explain, like, he had a chart,
Translate.
he had a picture of a cow, but at the end of our year, we went around to all these shops and took pictures of all these people because we adored them
Yeah.
all, and cooking our regular meals, with the food that was so fresh.
Mhm.
It just tasted different, tasted like
Yeah.
nothing that we were used to. I mean, every so often we do like an American meal of like lamb chops and potatoes and green beans or steak or something.
Yeah.
Tasted nothing like what we were used to because the food was so, so high quality and
Farm to
fresh.
table, like, as it should be. I
Egg,
mean, gosh.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that was really powerful, I think, just to have that kind of, experience of the culture in that way, the food and wine and olive oil, all the ingredients being so fresh, but
Yeah.
also getting to know people, like, getting to have that Italian experience, because when you live in a neighborhood like that, there was no supermarket near us. I
Mhm.
I don't think we went to a supermarket the entire year we lived there, which
Wow.
like, really different for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So, it was fantastic, and we didn't have a car. We just would take the bus into town, every so often a taxi if we needed like, when we did our laundry, that we couldn't really do our laundry at our place, and there was a laundromat down there, well, not a laundromat, but someone who d you had to pay to do your laundry, but it was, like, the heft of it, and it was expensive. We had a taxi to do our laundry.
You're like, "I can't be schlepping this down the street. This is just too much." Like, I gotta draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, that's detail. Anyway, not the most important detail, but
No, I
I
love
think
all this context.
that, like, getting to know my boyfriend's family was incredible. It was scary at first. His parents were terrified that we met this American hussy, basically, and they
Yeah.
lived in a very tiny provincial town outside of Rome,
Okay.
and they were the only experience his mother had with Americans was soldiers from World War II.
Oh god. No wonder.
Which had been quite a long time before I arrived,
Yeah,
but that was
yeah.
right.
Still a little scarred, yeah.
Yeah, And he lived at home. He had 3 older sisters, and I
Oh,
learned all
man.
about what it was like to be an Italian mama's boy, what it
Oh,
was
yeah.
like to be the baby of the family, what it was like he had, his sisters and his nieces and nephews, and everyone was like all those people were just fascinated with me,
I'm sure.
and his parents were like, sure, I was gonna, I don't know, steal him away or oh, tarnish his reputation, but it was such culturally, like, such an amazing experience to get to know these folks, and I
Yeah.
love them. By the end of the year, I mean, I'll never forget my first meeting with them where they looked like they were attending a funeral. They were so his parents, they were just like, "Hmm," and I was like, "Please, I'm just being a good girl," and I
Please
brought
like
them
me.
gift and everything, and no. But by the end of the year, they were like they did not understand why I was going home,
Mm,
and they were like, "You're quasi Italiana, you're practically Italian," and it broke my heart to leave them,
oh,
really. But what happened was Francesca's message to me stayed in my mind,
mm,
and Mario, my boyfriend, he worked for the big news one of the big newspapers, like a big newspaper in Rome, I guess, and, he worked at night. And so when we were together, whenever we were together throughout the year, he was like, uh, staying up extra, basically, to
mm,
spend with me.
mm.
And so I knew that if I moved there, then it was not going to look anything like the year that I had been on vacation. I'd
Definitely.
have to get a job. I'd
Yeah.
work during the day, like at the international school or something like that as a
Yeah.
teacher. We had kids, it all would be on me, and
Right.
I knew that life was gonna change in a very big way. It wasn't gonna be a fantasy the way it really was while I was there that year.
Yeah.
And also, we didn't have he wasn't gonna have the kind of money that would mean we could have a house in both countries.
Mhm.
Also, I was Jewish. I am Jewish, and it was like being Jewish in Italy is nothing like being Jewish here. Like there
Yeah.
aren't the same options. And my children, I really wanted my kids to feel Jewish, and that I knew that wasn't going to happen. And then
Yeah.
another thing that was really a big piece was that when I hung out with him that year, we would go like to bars and cafes and out and hanging out with his friends, and I loved all of them, but it was mostly the guys. The girlfriends, the sisters, they were all at home making dinner or doing laundry or I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't know what it's like now. This is a while ago.
Mhm.
uh, Gender roles were very, very firm there, and
Yes.
actually something that was quite nice. He was quite the gentleman, and took care of me and all of that. I wasn't quite used to that from my boyfriends in the United States.
Mm.
But I also knew, like, as soon as we got married, I wasn't going out to the cafes with the guys anymore.
No, you would be expected elsewhere.
That's right. And
Yeah.
so and he wasn't a cosmopolitan Italian. He didn't live in Rome. He lived outside of Rome.
Yeah.
And I just think I wasn't gonna have the same kind of access to, uh, I don't know, culture and intellectual stimulation
Yeah.
probably.
Yep.
You know, the
Wow.
we had an amazing year, and we kept in touch for many years. We didn't end it when I left. We said, "Let's see." I knew I had to go home. I had a great job offer back in California, and I was like, "I have to go home and start my career
Yeah.
and see how I feel." And he came to visit, and it was just really clear by the time he came to visit, like, I don't know, 6 months later, that I just couldn't see myself going back as much as I loved him. I couldn't see myself going back, bunking myself down in that life.
Yeah.
It seemed like a good call.
Mhm.
So it was really heartbreaking. But over the years, we kept in touch. And then sort of I guess we sort of drifted apart for a while, but anyway, I got married about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years later, and honestly, my choice of husband at the time had a lot to do with Mario because he was such a grown-up, he was such a mensch,
Mm.
he was a caretaker, and so I, like, refined my choices
Yeah.
based on that and married someone who was a lot like him in a lot of ways, but was, American and Jewish,
Right.
actually.
So better fit there at least, but refined your palate a little bit, if you will.
Exactly, and we actually went back to Italy, a year or so after we got married, and we stayed with Mario at, like Mario had an extra
No way.
apartment, we hung out for a whole week with him and my old friends,
Oh my
and
god.
time, I have to hand it to both of my men that they were able to handle that, um,
Wow.
and with grace. We had a really good time, and then in 2002 our youngest son was a year and a half. My husband, Mark, and I decided to go to Italy for a month with our kids because of the kind of experience I had. And it was really
Yeah.
supposed to be like, let's go for a month and see if we want to go for a year. We just thought we'd sort of try that out.
Yeah.
And my mom came with us. I mean, it became a much bigger thing. My sister ended up getting married in Cortona, and so, like, the whole family and all these friends
Oh.
it was a huge ordeal, but, so our plan totally shifted, but while we were there, we met up with Mario and his wife and their daughter, and us
Oh.
kids and my mom, who loved him too,
Oh.
and, we went to Orvieto, that's where we met up for lunch. And at some point, we were all walking from one place to another place, and I was walking with him, and I said, 17 years ago, because I remember that's how long it was. I said, "Did you ever think this is what we'd be doing today?"
So surreal.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre, and it was bittersweet. It
I
was
was
bittersweet.
thinking bittersweet. Oh my god, what a yeah, how else do you describe that? There's, like was that I don't wanna pry too much, but, like, I know, first love feeling. Would you say he was, like, kind of your real first love? Yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah.
there's no comparing that ever, right? And you can love that person so much for that and that experience, which does always stay with you. And, of
Yeah,
course, love the person you're with and who you had your life with and family with and all of that so much and
right.
hold space for both of those loves, but, like, oh, and then to take you it can probably really takes you back, and then maybe even a little sadness, like, "Wow, what if I had chosen that path?" Who knows, but, like, everything also kinda worked out, like, so many conflicting
Well
things.
Well, what I would say, I mean, yes, it was totally bittersweet. He was unhappy in his marriage. He had
Oh,
shared that with me when
gosh.
we talked when I got there, but, and I think for him it was really hard. I think I was so different from the girls he'd known
Yeah,
because I was very educated and independent, and the provincial women that he was with in his town, like they just didn't have that same even,
sure.
like, I don't know, viewpoint about the world.
Yeah.
S that was sort of hard for him, but what I definitely never regretted the choice I made ultimately because I just knew it
Yeah.
you know, Francesca had been a guide for me.
Yeah, c what a godsend a little bit. I mean, yeah, to
Is Yeah, and then, uh, but here's the thing, like what you're saying, first love, also being romanced by an Italian, there's nothing like it. Italian love, nicknames, Stella mia, amore mio, like, there's, I swear, nothing that
Yeah,
compares in English,
so true.
and he was a serious romantic, which I am too, so that was a really special thing, but
Oh.
But something that came from that month in Italy was that I mean, we stayed in this place outside of Lucca. It
Oh,
was like
I love Luca.
a, um, home away or VRBO or something like that, because by 2002, that's what we were doing
Started
it.
it existed, yeah.
We stayed in this beautiful place, like a carriage house or something outside of a 18th century manor in the
Oh,
countryside, and we loved it so much that we actually came home with a little bit of a dream of living in the country. And 2 years later, we bought a property in Sebastopol in Sonoma County, and my husband built us a house in the country.
oh,
So it changed our lives again, going to
yes.
another country, having an amazing experience.
Yes. Can I just point out for anyone here listening who's maybe not from the Bay Area, John and I, we're also from the Bay Area. And can I just speak to Sebastopol for a second? It's beautiful. Like,
Yeah,
sure, there's nothing like the Tuscan countryside and near Luca. And I mean, that's,
yeah,
the creme de la creme. But Sebastopol is beautiful. And like just this area of California is stunning. So but again, would that have been your reality? Would you guys have even thought to do that had you not gotten that experience? Shaking your
I
head, no? Probably not?
yeah, no, I don't I think that it's like your world unfolds, and
Yeah.
then and seeds get planted.
Definitely. And some are
It
harder to ignore than others, I think.
Right,
Like when John and I went to like 3, 4 months after we started dating, we moved to Italy together. It was only for 3 months, but like that was so new in our relationship. But the place that we were living, which was also out in the countryside, we got there, I saw it, and I was like so in love with him at that time. And still am, but like really falling. But I was like, because they did weddings there, and I was like, "I wanna get married here one day." We are gonna get married here one day. I think I even told him that too, it probably scared him a little bit, but he stuck with me, and we did, and we got
right.
married there, and so these full circle moments, right, had we not lived there, had we not gone never would have known about it, right?
Yeah,
And wouldn't have
um,
dreams of going back and hopefully living there one day, who knows? But, um, it's so clear travel has so influenced your life. And also, I wanted to touch on I know one thing prior to us coming on and recording was talking about just family dynamics, just during trips, especially too, just family dynamics and travel. But also, you and I have talked about, now that we have kids and mine's younger, but getting used to traveling with her, thinking about how I traveled with my parents, both all together and individually, and just how we almost like pass our travel and all of these things that have inspired us down to our kids. Can you just talk to me a little bit about that and like what that has looked like for you? And if there's anything that you've like taken away that you're really instilling in your kids now and yeah, what
yeah.
that looks like.
Well, my kids are all grown now, and I think, the stories I've told them over the years are just part of the family lore,
Yeah.
and family legacy. And what's been really important to me is making sure that I'm traveling with my kids one on one.
Yeah.
We did plenty of family things, but now that they're older, I'm really diving into trips with them one on one. So 2 years ago,
Amazing.
one of my kids was finishing up college, and he took a class that, ended up they did a month in Morocco, and so we knew this was on the calendar, and I was like, "Let's meet up in somewhere and travel together," and so we ended up meeting up in Portugal
Oh, beautiful.
and spent 2 weeks, and actually my brother, the world traveler, was in Sicily at the time, and
Of
so
course
he
he
came
was.
in. Yes, of course he was. And so he came and met us in Portugal, and so he traveled with us too. But it was just really fun and different to travel with a grown, an adult child. He was in his
Yeah.
20s, and to explore and figure things out together and get cranky with each other. And I mean, all the good things too. And
Yeah.
so this year, in a couple months, I'm gonna go to Greece with my youngest son.
Going back to Greece, amazing. Which are island hopping a little bit, a specific island?
We are well, we're gonna stay on the mainland a lot
Okay.
because cheaper, and there's so much history and so many gorgeous
Oh,
places,
yeah,
far less touristy than the islands are.
fair.
So,
Yep.
I have a friend who lives in Athens, and so we're gonna stay with her for a few days, and then, yesterday, he and I started doing some planning, and we decided to go to Kefalonia,
Okay.
and then Ithaca, which is right next to it. So ferries between, you can do car ferries. We're
Yeah.
gonna rent a car and travel all over. But Ithaca is where Ulysses was for at the end of the Odyssey, I think. So that's he and I are both like gonna do a little binging of Greek podcasts to learn mythology and history.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm gonna do the travel podcast too, figure out what we're doing, but he wants to do cooking classes. He's 25, so
Oh, yeah.
cooking and, going to the
Have to,
the
of course.
markets, and I am an artist. I bring my travel art kit with me wherever I go, so he's gonna have to sit and I don't know, scroll his phone while I paint.
I love that.
He told me yesterday, I do wanna go shopping." I was like, "Oh, please." Shopping too, no worries about that, we'll bring extra suitcases, so,
Yeah. You're like,
yeah,
we're gonna do it all, don't you worry." I
yeah,
love that so much. I think it's so important that, if you have the means to do it and the opportunity arises, like, to take that opportunity if you have more than 1 kid or even if you just have the one, right? Just taking that one-on-one time. I know you and I have talked about this and just, again, the family dynamics, like, there's definitely people in my world and in my circle that their parents didn't travel with them one-on-one, or it was very much family travel, or they even are like, "Why would I travel with, one kid and not the other? That feels so wrong." And I think, again, this is coming from the point of view of an only child. I don't have a second kid yet, so I really, it's hard for me to put myself in those shoes, though not impossible. But I do, yeah, you might feel some type of way about it, but like how incredible and how special that you get to have that one-on-one time with that kid when they might already feel like they're competing a little bit for attention or something, just to give them a little and just to get to know them on a one-on-one basis as opposed to again, just conflicting and competing personalities. And that was something that my parents were really great about doing and my dad especially, which I'm like, it was like unheard of in my world for like father-daughter trips or like my dad and I went to Ireland for a week. Like nobody around me was doing that. I'm not gonna say it's uncommon, but like I'm so grateful for that now. So it's so clear that like what your mom did with you and your brother, even though you all 3 went, like, it's clear that you 2 had some experiences, I'm sure they did, you did as, the 3 of you, but just how that has impacted your life, and now you're incorporating that and seeing the value of that in
yeah,
your life with your kids now, like, it's
yeah.
such a gift.
It is, and, when they're older, having a relationship with your adult child's very different from you have
Yes.
to, like, in a way, you're, like, recreating it because you
Yeah.
don't wanna have the same dynamic you've always had when they were little,
Yeah.
And so doing these trips is a way to get to know them and share experiences that are intimate in a totally different way. And if you're with everybody, like when I go, and so my wife and I take my kids to Kauai like
Oh,
every other year. She has
love
yeah, we do too. She has a timeshare there. So
amazing.
um, when we do that, when we do the whole crowd, it's a completely different experience because they have my kids have a language. They all speak with each other, just like whatever they're talking about. Uh, Mary and I don't know anything about it. And so that it's it's one kind of trip, but it's also really fun just to play, just to hang out and relax with
Yeah.
them. But when I take one of them one-on-one and we go somewhere super interesting, we're having a completely different experience and building our relationship, which we need to have
Yeah.
because we're gonna have times where they just need to call on me. They need me to show up, or I need
Mhm.
them. And uh, and I just want to know them. I want to know them better. And it's
Mhm.
really to know them when they're the tribe of my children are all together because they're very, very connected.
Yeah, and there's something beautiful about that, of course, right? There's something to be said about traveling as a group like that, and it's chaotic and the most, the greatest and maybe sometimes worst way. But, but yeah, to be able that was something too that I felt, throughout my 20s with my parents that I do wish I had gotten more time with is like knowing them as an adult and having like almost like a friendship, right? Like, yes, of course, you're always gonna be their parent, but I would imagine maybe you stop parenting a little bit less as much as we can as parents, which is you maybe can never completely take the foot off the gas there. But but getting to know, like, that version of themselves and, to your point, how can you do that if you don't make the time for it? And even if it's not on some grand trip, right? Just a little road trip or a weekend trip or something
Oh,
like
sure.
that, like,
Yeah,
it's just
all sorts of things.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What an experience. I could talk to you for hours because 'cause I'm sure there's more stories, that
Yes.
you could share.
Yeah.
But as we kinda close out, I'm just curious, like, for anyone here listening who is no doubt inspired by your story, and is, like, ready to move to Europe tomorrow, um,
Right.
is
For
there
a number of
anything
reasons.
Yeah. You've already mentioned a couple great things too, I think, right? Like, getting out into the community, really, like, leaning into, almost like the more, like, off the beaten path thing. So maybe not going to the supermarket because it's easy and convenient, like, just all of those things, really taking in, whatever community and things that you're in there. Is there anything else that comes to you in terms of words of wisdom, things that you would maybe remind people or a tip, just anything that you would leave someone with here who's maybe, again, looking to travel either in the short term or maybe even like make a longer term move for however long that is, if you want to answer it that way instead, actually.
Well, I think what comes to mind actually is what you touched on, rather than going to a supermarket, going to a little shop.
Mhm.
And that's a metaphor for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Market is familiar,
Mhm.
but the little shops are where you're going to experience the culture and the people. And so I think what I would recommend if you're going to go do something like this is to try to get involved, try to do something with that isn't a tourist experience.
Mhm.
So if you have kids, go to the playground, go to the park,
Yeah.
and sit back and let your kids interact with the other kids who are there who live there.
Yeah.
uh, Even if they don't speak the language,
Mhm.
like, let your kids try to figure it out. Uh,
Yes.
a lot it was when our kids were little and we did that month in Italy, and it was a way, when we didn't make friends, but it was like a way to build new, I don't know, new ideas about how to connect with other people in the world.
Yes.
And I guess the other thing is just trust. Like, if you have a passion for a place, figure out a way to go there with your family. Figure out a way to open the door to these experiences. I think, my brother's experience is probably the most profound of all of them. It
Yeah.
completely changed the course of his life in so
Absolutely.
many, like, his career and his experiences.
Mhm.
And so just think of, it's not, you may want to go live in another country or go travel in Europe or travel around the world or whatever, but the real gift is going to be for your kids to have the exposure
Mhm.
to the big wide world. Whatever is going on here in this country is just one experience. There's so much more going on, and honestly,
Mm.
travel the United States. Like this, it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be in Europe or in South America or something. It can be right here,
Yep.
but don't just stay in a touristy resort. Like, go out and do something that's not what a tourist would do,
Yep.
and see what happens, see what who you meet and your experience.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I think you already used kind of the term off the beaten path, but like just the things that Yeah, aren't maybe in the guidebooks, or you know, you get to know people and you ask like, "Oh," either locals or maybe even other expats or something. I've done that before too, and it's just like, "What would you recommend?" What's something like, one of my friends and I went to Spain, and, like, so many of the experiences we had there was because we were, like, in hostels and broke and whatever, you know, just doing what we could, and I'm like, half the things we experienced there would never have happened if we hadn't opened ourselves up, put ourselves out there, and so I think that's where some of the best stories come from and some of the best, you know, not that you can't have beautiful experiences doing the touristy things, but it's and there's a time and place, I guess, depending on what it is, but I think especially for extended travel, for sure, but I think that's great advice even just if you're Italy especially, I feel like people really fall into that trap because if the first time they're going to Florence, first time they're going to Rome, I gotta see the Colosseum, I gotta see the Vatican, I gotta see, you know, the Duomo, what you know, all the things, and it's like, okay, but, like, what else is there? Is there a market you could mix in there that is a little bit out of the city that you just wouldn't normally stumble upon, that kinda, you know? So, yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and I think that what happens, so one thing that came up was go someplace and stay there. Don't try
Yes. Oh, god, yes.
places. Go to one place and
Mhm.
stay there for a little while and
Yeah.
experience it. It doesn't have to be the metropolis. It might be just a little town,
Mhm.
but don't try to see every single highlight of the top 10 things to do in Italy. Go to one town and just experience the town. And
Yes.
I don't know, we were watching a video about Greece, going traveling in Greece yesterday, and it was some, like a cruise it's one of the tour cruises, so it'll take you to three different islands in a day. And I said to my kid,
It's a lot.
only thing you're gonna see if you have an hour on an island is the touristy shops in the harbor. Like, you will not have time to go
No.
the place. There's no way that that is seeing an island or seeing a town.
Yep.
So if you want to experience it, slow travel basically, because
Yes. Oh, love slow travel. Yeah.
rent a house for a week in a town
Yeah.
and go into the center, do the passeggiata, uh,
Yes.
find your favorite cafe and go there 4 times,
Yeah. Yeah.
your cappuccino in the morning. Don't don't try to hit the highlights. Like, they're not gonna be highlights. It's like seeing the Mona Lisa. There are
Yeah.
5,000,000 standing in front of the Mona Lisa, and you're not seeing a million other incredible works of art because somehow it didn't make it onto a list.
Yeah.
Go skip the Mona Lisa and go see something else. That's sort of my philosophy for all travel.
I
It's over.
agree. Yeah, because it starts to feel like you're just kinda checking things off a list
Oh,
after a
yeah.
while. Like, what you just said about Greece and that like, island hopping thing. I'm like, "Okay, you're kinda it comes off more like you're just doing it to say you've done it. Yes, I've set foot on this island." You know what I mean? But, like, what are you actually experiencing? What have you really taken away from that
Yeah.
experience, you know? And so, yeah, you get kind of robbed, like, I don't know, I guess if that's your thing, fine. But, there's just so much more. I think that's the beauty of travel. There's depth, there's things to learn, ways that it allows us to grow if we, lean into it in a certain way, and yeah, so why miss out on all of that, you know?
Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
a different experience, and it's
Yep.
more intentional. More intentional.
Yes, I love that. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Susie, thank you so much for coming on. This was so fun. I know we were joking a little before we came on. It's like the grief work we do, it's so beautiful. It's so healing and cathartic and it's wonderful, but like this is so fun. And there's like this other side to us that is like, yeah, let's go get on a plane. Like let's talk about all the travel and all the amazing ways that it has changed our life. So, this was so fun. Your story, I knew it was going to be juicy, but I was like on the edge of my seat at the time. I was like, what
I
were you
was
going to do
saying
when
that
you get
before.
home?
It's one of my favorite stories for my life. What
Oh, so, so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, all of your wisdom, just all of it today. This was such a pleasure. I love talking to you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.